After seeing the Rings of Power's portrayal of elves, I'm not alone in feeling that they are not very elven-like at all. In fact, they are distinctly human. So I wanted to take a look at what was missing and how you might go about addressing those missing things. There are 4 key aspects of elven nature in Tolkien's works that I believe are an absolute requirement to portray if you're going to adapt them. These are their age, their elven wisdom, their otherworldliness, and their magical nature. The middle 2 are logical extensions of their incredible age, and the last 2 are due to their nature and creation. The worst thing you could do would be to portray them as merely normal people, both because it doesn't make sense given their long lives, and because Tolkien is explicit about how different they are, using elven wise as an adjective, for example, or stating in one of his letters that elves are like men with greatly enhanced features like aesthetic and creative ability or beauty and nobility. In the Peter Jackson films, elves are portrayed as these glowing figures, which supports the idea in your mind that they are otherworldly. It even extends to Galadriel and to a lesser extent Celebrimbor. Galadriel's flowing movements and her use of magic further establish this, but we have to consider how this could be done when elves are main characters that perform more mundane tasks. Legolas, for example, spends more time on screen and he feels a bit more human in comparison, though never even close to Rings of Power level. Yet he demonstrates the fluidity of movement and competence with his bow that impresses upon you how different he is. There is also the matter of personality and character traits. There are solutions to these problems. One is to go to great lengths to establish these aspects in a powerful introduction. This was also done with Galadriel in the films. The next is to portray what an elven character is really like under exceptional circumstances. I think that otherwise an elf will be kind of aloof and wooden. Not so when they face the possibility of the destruction of their kingdoms, or the temptation to learn Sauron's ring lore. Bigger, more infrequent events that an elf wouldn't have already figured out how to deal with a long time ago. That's where you do your characterization, not the loss of a family member thousands of years ago. Now to address the 4 aspects. The way to show age generalizes to competence and wisdom. If an elf sows, then they do it faster than any mortal and without injury. If they nock an arrow, it is one fluid motion, and if they forge weapons, they are of the finest quality. In a social situation, they are going to understand what will happen if they do or say one thing or another. One exception here, though, is the actions of men, for they are unlike the elves and might behave in ways that the elves don't expect. This would further distinguish characters like Gil-galad, who actually had regular encounters with men, or Galadriel, who has a greater mind perception ability, from the majority of elves who don't. They will make better, smarter, more informed decisions than a human character and just be generally more knowledgeable to further show their wisdom. The way to show otherworldliness stems from their age and wisdom, but it also comes from the things the elves value. They won't feel human because they are above mere humans, morally and physically. They are less corruptible, less evil, and yes, more in tune with nature. Many of the elves we are interested in are taller, tougher, and heal faster from wounds. They will have different ideals and grander concerns than men, like essentially trying to stop time and preserve the past indefinitely. Lastly, to show their magic, when an elf like Celebrimbor creates something of great power, it is almost like they have to give up part of their soul to make that thing. And some creations are so great that they cannot be made again, because the creator no longer possesses that part of them, meaning that a lot of the great works of the elves will likely be almost spiritual processes, momentous tasks that drain them. In the forging of the rings, this should also help convey their gravity, as they will have such a huge effect on the course of history. It's apparent to me that the Rings of Power showrunners looked at how much effort it would take to do the elves justice, and they gave up, because there isn't even an attempt at getting any of these things right, either showing elves as outright incompetent and ignorant in the case of Celebrimbor not knowing about or thinking to use an alloy, and in the case of Galadriel's failure to negotiate with Miriel. Or if competence is shown, it is hardly believable, such as Galadriel herding multiple attacking guardsmen into a cell without really touching them. They also don't act or speak as if they are ancient and wise beings. Even worse, at times the elves are a parody of Tolkien's, in their unwillingness to fell trees, for example. It's funny because it matches how mundane they made the elves' motivation for forging the rings, making it a necessary and immediate action rather than an optional temptation that should be resisted. It shouldn't be surprising really, considering they couldn't do any story elements in a deep, ponderous, or interesting way. Perhaps the closest thing they got to doing so would be the relationship between Galadriel and Sauron, but there were so many problems there I'm not going to count it. Anyway, goodbye guys, until next time.